Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Hope you are having a wonderful drama-free day. Ready for some new stories from Ask a Lawyer? Let's go to the first one, and don't forget to listen to the end to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My stepdaughter Presley is 22 now and moved back here to New York from Florida to be closer to her father. At first, we had her set up in our basement apartment. Then we moved her into one of our rental properties with my daughter Rochelle a few months later. Presley got a job working in corrections and was making plenty of money. Rochelle is a stay-at-home mom at the moment. It's hard to get her to get a job because childcare is so expensive and she doesn't have a car. A few weeks of the girls living with each other, my husband, Presley's father, and I started hearing complaints. First, Presley called us to tell us that Rochelle was leaving food out and bugs were starting to come into the house. Next, Presley called us at midnight to tell us that my daughter left her 1-year-old daughter with her and went on a date at 6 and wasn't home yet. She complained that she had to work in the morning and couldn't get the baby to bed because Rochelle never changed the baby's diaper and she had horrible diaper rash. After that, Presley complained that I allowed Rochelle to borrow one of her cars without asking her first. Presley's father gifted her a car when she first got to New York, and it was in her name, but we technically owned it first, so I let Rochelle use it since Presley had another car. Rochelle ran into a deer with it, but there was no damage. We recently told the girls that they would have to start paying rent on the place. Presley made more than enough, so we told her that she had to pay $500 a month. I wasn't going to make Rochelle pay anything at the moment, since she had no job, and Presley and my husband said that was unfair. But that property is in my name, so I decide who pays what. After all the complaining, I told Presley she had to get out of the property and find her own place to live. She decided to stay with her boyfriend on the nearby army base, so we can't come see her, and she won't answer the phone to talk to any of us. She didn't come over for Christmas. I understand that I might have been slightly hard on Presley, but she had been privileged from the start. My daughter hasn't had the easiest life since her father abandoned us when she was little, and her baby's father ran out on her as well. My husband and oldest son told me that I'm wrong for doing that to Presley, and that I should apologize to her. I will apologize if people think I'm in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? OP is definitely in the wrong here. Is she really punishing Presley because she's got her life in order, while OP's own daughter sucks at pretty much everything? OP's daughter is responsible for not having a job. She should take care of her own child, and she should not drive around in the car of someone else, let alone the fact OP seems to believe she doesn't have to pay rent because she's too lazy to find a job. Nothing seems to ever be the fault of Rochelle in OP's eyes. This mindset does OP's daughter no favors in life. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Most Disaster 79 says, "You're the a-hole. Why would you kick her out when your daughter is obviously a slob and an irresponsible mother? Let alone, that wasn't your car to borrow to your daughter." Wada Ep says, "This can't be for real. How are you not concerned about your grandchild? Instead of complaining about Presley warning you what is happening to your grandchild, you were more upset with her letting you know than you were about the health and safety status of the baby and the living conditions." Oh my God. Again, how is this story real? You're the a-hole. If this is real, you should have thanked Presley for bringing to your attention what is happening with Rochelle out on her own with a baby like that. Miss Spider 66 says, "You're the a-hole on so many levels. From the sound of it, your daughter seems to be taking after you. You seem to think it is okay to loan a car out that is in your stepdaughter's name without her permission. But you also think you are the only person who can say who stays in the apartment because it is in your name. You can't have it both ways." I married my husband 7 years ago. I have 2 daughters, 13, 15, from my previous marriage, and he has a son, 20, named Tom. Now, my husband sent Tom to live with his uncle after his mom's death, not because I refused to let him live with me and the girls, but because my husband didn't want his 2 families to overlap. But my husband got too busy to check on Tom, especially as he got older. It's been like this for years, till recently when my husband said that he's been reconnecting with Tom and found out he has cancer. I felt really sorry for him. I wanted to visit, but he said it wasn't a good idea, as Tom isn't ready, and suggested to me that he use one of the girls' college funds to help pay for treatment. I was in dismay when he said that. He explained that Tom is understandably distant, and he wants to make it up to him after those unfortunate years. I said no, but he lashed out, saying it's his money. I told him this is his stepdaughter's future, but he promised he will pay everything back once he's done with this emergency, and reminded me this is his son, flesh and blood. I don't know. I felt like he meant to say that my daughters don't matter that much to him. I still refused, but he said if he asked the girls, he was sure they'd want to help their stepbrother. I sternly told him that his family problems aren't mine and my family's, and he shouldn't sprint them on me and the girls. He was shocked and got quiet, then rushed out and has been staying with Tom for a week now. Doesn't call or visit unless for the girls. Now he's planning on taking them to visit Tom. He said they had the right to meet their stepbrother, but I see it as a way to pressure them. OP is in the wrong here times a million. I can't believe OP feels that way and actually said that. OP's husband is trying to make good on a situation where he has been the absolute and total a-hole for at least 7 years, and OP is trying not to let him. Did he contribute any money to the girls' college funds? Because if he didn't put in one dime, and it's all money OP earned and saved for them, OP is still the a-hole. But I can kind of see OP being nervous about the money part only. If he provided any of that money, then yes, of course he wants to repurpose it to save his son's life. Truly, what's wrong with OP? And also, they have been married 7 years, and the kids have never met? And now let's hear the community's opinion. Happy Banana 134 says, "You're the a-hole / everyone sucks here. You're happily married to a guy who basically forgot his son. What the duck? If it is your husband's money, as he claims, my question is why the F is there a fund for your daughters and not his son? If he can pay the money back, personally, I'd help Tom in any case." Mandez 270 says, "Everyone sucks here. What kind of man abandons his own son after his mom dies to go and play happy family with another woman and her 2 daughters? And your husband has been putting money in that fund for your kids. Now that he is on the verge of death, I think it is beyond selfish and entitled to say that he can't use those funds for his own ducking son. Your husband failed as a father up until now, and it sure doesn't seem like you had any problem with your husband replacing his son with your kids. The least either of you could do is help the son survive this disease. It is not your husband's responsibility to pay for your daughter's college. It is your husband's responsibility to provide for his son. As you said, why should your family problems be his family problems?" Z Zombie says, "Everyone sucks here, but you mostly." He's right. It's his money, and he's allowed to spend it however the hell he wants. And yes, his dying son is more important to him than your stepdaughter's college fund. You cannot tell him not to try everything to keep his son alive. He was a lousy father and deserves to make it up to him. It's quite sad to see how little F's you give about his son, saying you're sorry, and then refusing and being mad that your husband wants to spend his money on his son. I, 27 female, have an amazing daughter. A, 12 female, and I'm married to the most amazing man, T, 27 male, in the world. My daughter and I have been living in Japan for the last 9 years, the home country of my husband. I returned to the UK for the first time since leaving this month, August 2023, to meet my nephew. My best friend, R, 26 female, and I have been best friends since we were 3 years old. She has always been my rock through everything, especially when I was pregnant with my daughter. As you can see, I gave birth to my daughter when I was 15. Her biological father, D, 33 male, has had no interaction with either of us since the night I got pregnant, nor ever showed an interest, until now. To address the elephant in the room, D R me when I was 15, and he was 21. I come from a very religious family, aka my father is a deacon. There was no option. However, I absolutely adore my daughter and do not equate her to that horrible experience. She saved me, and I've spent every day loving her thanks to a lot of support, therapy, and her just being the most loving little sweet peach out there. A few things to note. 1. She doesn't know the nature of her conception, as how the duck do you explain that to any child under any circumstances? 2. My husband adopted her, and she knows they're not related biologically, but they absolutely adore one another. 3. D gave up all parental rights in a plea deal for a lesser sentence. Now on to the main thing. I came back to the UK to meet my nephew, but booked to stay for a few weeks to visit my family and friends. But it was all a surprise. No one except my mum knew we were coming over. It was very fun and so lovely to see everyone's shock and surprise. My daughter is having the best time with her aunts, and they're all so excited to see her in person. I decided to also surprise R. Turning up at her house, ringing the doorbell, and seeing D was definitely the last thing I was expecting. I assumed by some twisted and cruel coincidence that I got the address wrong, but then R comes to the door calling him babe. It honestly felt like a horrible cliched teen movie where the main protagonist caught her best friend and boyfriend together. I knew she was seeing someone, but said that she wouldn't let me meet them until it was in person. She's my best friend. I had no reason not to trust her. I know that makes me stupid as hell, but I just never could have thought she'd do this. It's been 3 days since then, and now she's been blowing up my phone, begging to talk. I finally gave in because, as established above, I'm a moron. She said she was sorry for how I found out about them, and if I could forgive her for falling in love with my ex, which not only pissed me off, but also my husband, who knows everything this whole ordeal put me through. I cut her off, saying I couldn't have this conversation, especially since my daughter was in the room, and she replied saying something like, "Well, she'll have to find out about the wedding soon for dress fittings." I asked her what she meant because no way did I hear that correctly. And she said that as her soon-to-be stepmom, she wants her as the flower girl. As we've always said since we were growing up, that our kids would be flower girl, ring bearer. I told her in absolutely no way, shape, or form would my daughter be attending that wedding. She said I was being petty and jealous, and that I can't stop her real dad from being a part of her life. We've not spoken since this morning on the call, but I'm already receiving messages from our mutual friends saying that I've caused her to break down and ruined her wedding. But I genuinely believe I'm not only morally right, but also legally. So I'm putting my most personal story online and asking you, am I the a-hole here? First of all, he is not her father. OP's husband is her father. And OP's friend isn't much of a friend. Also, she is not and never will be stepmom to OP's daughter. OP needs to cut contact with her completely because everything OP shares with her, she shares with D. OP needs to be careful. Mband4 says, take your daughter and run. Your deranged ex-friend will try and talk to her one-on-one and possibly try to get D to meet your child, and you do not want the fallout. Consult a lawyer ASAP. Don't let your daughter out of your and your husband's sight, and fly back to Japan as soon as possible. You're so much not the a-hole. Cut all ties with this woman and your other friends who can't seem to understand why you wouldn't want contact. Sending you hugs. This is an extremely hard situation. Weak Soft Teeth says, also, however much access you've given your friend with regards to anything having to do with your daughter, likes and dislikes, momentous private events, pictures, etc., that's exactly how much access this reprehensible man has had to your child for however long as well. And the fact that this friend wants your daughter to be in their wedding possibly speaks to them having worked to very insidiously plant a belief that you have stolen your daughter from her rightful father. Watch your back. Watch your kids' back. Don't let her out of your sight, not even with people you once trusted. You don't know who sympathizes with these monsters. Update. My husband has tried to change our flights, but due to the air traffic control issues in the UK, this hasn't been possible as of yet, but we will keep looking into it. I have contacted my lawyer. He says that there's no legal claim from their side, so that has eased me slightly. But I'm an overthinker, so my mind continues to rage on with all possible outcomes. With regards to talking to my daughter and explaining everything, she isn't completely in the dark over the circumstances. She knows it was a bad situation, and whenever she has asked questions regarding her paternity, I've done my best to explain to her without outright stating, "You were a product of R," because I don't want her to ever question whether she is loved or wanted. She is going into that really vulnerable age, and I'm trying to be as sensitive as possible surrounding it. But my husband and I have decided that due to the circumstances, we need to tell her. I've already contacted my therapist, and she has arranged for a chat with a child psychologist when we return. My daughter will then have the option of speaking with my husband or I present, or having sessions on her own. I've been dealing for years with my trauma, and it was selfish on my part to wait this long. But my childhood was taken away by this man, and I believed I was protecting her. But I now know I was protecting myself. R's number has been blocked on all our phones, and she cannot reach us through social media either. For the time that we remain in the UK, she will never be without my husband, my mother, or myself. My 45 male, ex, 35 female, and I have a daughter, Alana, 16 female. Alana has been dating Eric, 18 male, for about 8 months now. Things have been going well for them. My ex is active in Alana's school community and recently met Eric's dad, 44 male, at a recent school function. From what I understand, they hit it off and were moving in the direction of seeing each other. That is until Eric's dad found out that my ex is the mother of his son's girlfriend. He thought things would be weird and awkward if they started dating, so he made it clear to my ex that they were no longer a possibility and why. My ex did not take it well. According to what Alana told me later, her mom came home drunk one night and started mumbling at her about how she was a burden who always ruined her happiness. The next day, ex either didn't remember or pretended not to remember and thanked Alana for taking care of her when she was drunk. But it didn't take long before my ex started telling Alana how she didn't think Eric was right for her. They've got a 2-year age gap and will be separated for at least that long when he went to college, and that it would be better to break it off now. Alana was upset, and they got into a fight bad enough that she came to spend the night at my place. I told her that her mother was full of it, and as long as the guy's not hurting her, it's none of her mother's business who she dates. Things calmed down for a bit before suddenly escalating. Instead of simply telling my daughter it would be best to break up with Eric, ex started actively trying to sabotage the relationship. Examples include telling Alana she saw Eric with another girl, talking up and trying to introduce Alana to one of her friend's kids, and even stealing Alana's phone so that she could use it to text Eric that they were done. After resolving the misunderstanding with Eric, Alana had an even bigger fight with her mother before finally getting the reason why she was doing this. She wanted to get together with Eric's dad, but he wouldn't be with her because the kids were dating. Alana lost it, called her mom a crazy witch, and came back over to live with me. When I got the full story, I was livid. I called my ex to ask her what the duck she thought she was doing. She said her love life wasn't any of my business. I told her I don't care about her love life. I care about our daughter. Then I asked her why, if Eric's dad wouldn't be with her because of the kids' relationship, would she think he would be okay with her breaking the kids up? She called me jealous and said he wouldn't know if I didn't tell him. I called her a crazy witch just like Alana did and hung up. Now, not only am I getting texts from her calling me aggressive, but also her sister and her friends, who I assume don't have the true story, calling me the same. I try to ignore them, but it did get me thinking about whether I went too far when I lost my temper. I'm not a 16-year-old like Alana who can't filter their thoughts from their mouth. Am I the a-hole? Dry Measurement 8425 says, "Not the a-hole. You do have to manage your temper. I know all too well how exes can drive you insane sometimes. Just gotta remember keeping your composure is best for the kid in the long run. Go lose your composure in privacy. Your ex seems like she needs some mental health help, to be honest. That's nuts."